Hello all, another HiFiMan exclusive. I've got this box. It's got two headphones in it. They're closed back headphones, the first ones that I can think of that HiFiMan have made. They're extremely expensive and nobody else that I'm aware of other than HiFiMan have revealed these to the public until now. So in front of you, what we're going to do is we're going to unbox them. So we'll cover that up and start to unwrap it in front of you. There's the two. The HE-R10P, which is the planar magnetic closed back headphone, based in looks very closely on an old Sony classic, which is much sought after but which hasn't been made for many years, which was the R10 Sony. Hence this is called the R10. This is going to be retailing at what many of you will consider to be the ludicrous price of $5,500. Now, it's difficult for me to comment on that until we actually listen to it and open it up, but I would say to you that there are some people that won't even look at headphones unless they're that sort of money. The R10P. Your first proper glimpse of the HiFiMan R10P. A few cables here. So we have a full size, we have a balanced, and we have a 3.5mm. These will also run as Bluetooth with the Blue Mini module. So here's the very recognizable, very strange oval shaped wooden cups. A rather normal looking headband, which I'd already been pre-warned about. Some fairly decent sized cups. I'll just inspect it for any damage while we're here. I mean, it all looks fairly well made to me. And there's our entry point. Not particularly heavy. Let's put them on a second. They don't look strange, do they, at all, I'm sure. I don't think I'll be taking these out jogging, but they're quite nice and light, surprisingly light. Let's put that to one side and open up the planar ones. Sorry, the dynamic ones, the Ds. The Ds feel a bit like the poor relation, but obviously we haven't heard these yet. We will hear them during the course of this initial unboxing. But I do warn you now, I'm not a fan of closed back headphones per se. I prefer the open sounding open back headphones. I do have closed back headphones, but the ratio of open back to closed back headphones I have that are full sized are like a ratio of 10 to 1. Let's get out the planer. It's a bit tight in its cradle there. They are very, very light. They feel like they'd float away. You feel them a second, cameraman or camerawoman. Ridiculous, aren't they? Oh, you could certainly go out for a jog with these. Gosh, they're light as a feather. Very nice. Okay. Is there much difference in the two? I better make sure that I don't get them confused, because that could cause thousands of dollars worth of confusion. I believe the planers are an awful lot more expensive than the dynamics. HiFiMan aren't normally fans of dynamics at all. Right, okay, so obviously the dynamics are the lighter cup, and the much heavier ones are the darker cups are the planers. You feel the difference. Crazy, isn't it? It's like these have got 10 times the driver in them than these. Madness. Yep. So the dark box has got the light cups and the light box has got the dark cups. That makes sense, doesn't it? Is there any difference in the... Oh. So balanced and full size here, and the additional 3.5mm jack. Well, the next thing we have to do is we have to get these all clipped on and switched on and listening to some music. And it does so happen that I've just received an AKG K380 digital audio player with the additional Meteoric Titan amp. We're going to listen to Sia's Breathe Me, the extended edition. And we're going to use the Susvaras. This is a cable I bought for the Susvaras that enable it to go into balanced. The cables we're going to be using on the R10s are unbalanced cables. Quite a bit of leakage with the Susvaras. They're fairly open headphones. One would imagine with the R10s being closed backs, there'll at least be less leakage. That's the Susvaras as my baseline. Now, for the first time ever, well, they work very well. Yes, wow. People are going to accuse me of having HiFiMan bias. I'm not going to say too much, but they did sound pretty damn good to me. I did put on the planers, the $5,500 ones first, which I didn't mean to do. I meant to put on the dynamics, but there we go. I've done it now. There's no going back. You can't unlisten to something that you've just listened to. They were very, very clear. A totally different sound to the open backs, but not necessarily worse. just maybe slightly thinner with slightly more punch somehow, but that would probably be because of the fact that the bass is just going into its own chamber and doesn't have any particular need to be dampened because it's open to the outside world. Let's try the dynamics. The dynamics don't really impress me at all on first listen. They just sound bloated and not at all in the same pedigree as either the P-R10 or the Susvara. We have to say a little something about the controversy that reigns over the R10 model, the fact that it seems like a blatant rip-off of the Sony version. Whether it's done as a homage to the Sony in an effort to resurrect something that should never have been superseded by any of Sony's other models. There are many out there that think that Sony have never made anything as good sounding as what they did with the R10s originally over 20 years ago. I think the planer is certainly a fitting homage to them. People may well be tempted by the looks of them and the fact that how close the sound they are to the original R10s, I wouldn't know. I mean, they're certainly totally different technologies. The headband and yokes look cheap and cheerful. The cables are cheap and cheerful, but the sound is anything but, especially for a closed back. People will want to know that are interested in spending $5,500 whether these sound good, and yeah, on the first minute that I've spent listening to them, they sound pretty fantastic. Just a different sound to the Susvaras. The Susvaras, I don't know if the bass is quite as good on the Susvaras as they are on these. These have just got a little bit more punch, which I suppose is due to the fact that they're resonating into that chamber and they're not going to the outside world and needing any artificial dampening on them to achieve that sound. Ladies and gents, that's our first glimpse of the R10. I know very little about the materials these are made from. All I know is the cost price that the R10P will come out at, which is $5,500. I know that there's a lot of controversy. I know that I'm not per se a fan of closed back headphones as opposed to open back headphones, and the dynamic version of the R10s has not really impressed me on first listen at all. It wouldn't be something that I would want to pick up and listen to on the first minute listen that I've done anyway. However, obviously probably the R10P is something that will warrant a lot more listen, and they do sound pretty amazing for a closed back. It's only the first minute listen, but to me they're the finest closed back headphones I've ever listened to. Whether they are on a par with as far as, you know, needs a lot more time yet, but hopefully, if you bear with me, we'll get back to you on that. Until then, thank you very much for watching and looking forward to the next instalment with you. Adios.